Sure. What would you like to say, Brad?
What would you like me to say? Other than
something poetic.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad you all could come tonight, and I'm really pleased to see this book, which I've been thinking about for so many years, a reality. Publication day is tomorrow, so I think Otto arranged for full moon tonight. It's actually called a full wolf moon.
Yeah, we did that for you. No, it wasn't really scheduled, but
the things these people can do these days. And you know, I was thinking about the Diviner's Tale. It started with such unbelievably humble beginnings. I mean, humble's hardly even, is almost too grand a word for it. My farmhouse upstate, the basement kept flooding when I first bought it, and I got sick to death of going downstairs and waiting around in my mucky boots to hook up the pump to get the water out of the basement. And I had a sense that there was an underground stream somewhere near the house, and I spoke with an excavator, and Jimmy Hewson said, well, you know, instead of me just digging up, I can bring in a backhoe and dig up your entire front yard. We'll find something, but why don't I just bring in this water witch? And I said, oh, yeah, right. We'll bring in, and I'm supposed to pay for this, right? I was very skeptical, to say the least. And this guy showed up, absolutely matter-of-factly, took a dowsing rod, a Y rod, as I recall, out of his beat-up truck, and a kind of elegant little guy, and pretty much ignored me, and just started stitching a path. The zigzag across, and every so often, this is the cool part. The rod would just literally violently jump downward. I was watching his hands. You can hold them in different ways. Some people do this. When I douse, I do like this, which I don't do every day. But anyway, it would just fly downward, and there was nothing to him. He just pulled out something out of his back pocket, threw down a little marker, and kept going until he had kind of markers all over the place. And then he said, you know, there's a very strong underground stream here. There's a 35-foot down, you know, there's a rock ledge, so-and-so. It cuts a L shape about here. And he said, you go down, but he told him the exact, I forget the exact numbers, so I'm not going to make it up, but he told him the exact depth to go and what to do to kind of divert this underground stream. So Houston shows up with a backhoe. And really, the rest is history. I mean, he knew exactly where it was. And I thought, wow, that's very interesting. That's cool. You know, the front yard is now the basement doesn't flood much anymore. Well, they put in some PVC pipe. This is really literary. This is very let me get into the metaphors for a second. But it is, dowsing is a metaphor. And I started to think this guy could see through the ground. He could feel through the ground. And I found the whole thing ineffable, frankly. And I was working on, at the time, I think probably Trinity Fields, or there were several books ago. And the idea just kind of stuck with me. And, you know, I live upstate in a very rural place on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. And you get out into the woods there, and I was very capable of frightening the hell out of myself in those woods just by being there. The woods kind of speak when the birds have a way of going quiet all of a sudden. It's like, what's going on? You know, everything means something in the woods in terms of sound. Then I had this image of this Haines girl, where that came from. There's a group of trees, actually, where you can hear, sorry about this, but I can hear like children kind of laughing up in the trees. Or crying. Yeah. Look, you get alone up there for a few days. You're not showering or shaving anymore. Strange things happen. So, I don't know, these images started coming together, and, you know, out of that one image of the dowser in the front yard and watching that stick jump, and then just thinking about the woods and what I could do with that. What could I do with the dowser? It was amazing to me that no novels that I know of, actually literary novels, have used it. So it's a very ancient craft. It goes way back to the Egyptians and so forth. And it's in a lot of myths and folkloric literature. And so I started working on it and decided, well, I better go study it. And so I went up to, there is a society, the American American Dowsers Society. ASD, American Society of Dowsers. And they celebrated their 50th anniversary last year. They're serious folks, and there's thousands of them who do it. And they have an annual meeting in June, which I highly recommend for all of you New Yorkers. It's a really good skill to have here in the city. But I went up, again, my skepticism has built right back up again. I mean, skepticism turned to fascination when I saw it actually happening, and then fascination turned to a bit of an obsession. Then skepticism built right back up. So I went up there, I studied it for a few days, worked with some great teachers, and got my certificate. They dowsed among, I think it was 40 or 50 in our group in the class, and they dowsed the night before we got our certificates who was to be announced first, and it was me. And I thought, the whole time I was there, I thought, I'm such a fraud. On so many counts. First of all, I'm scribbling notes for a novel, where these other people are there, like, genuinely wanting to learn how to douse. You work the pendulum, work the L-rod to go. And here I am jotting down notes, and I thought, man, I'm such a vampire in here. This is really bad news. Again, I walked out of that situation feeling, changed. There is something to it, but that's where the mystery, that's where the so-called supernatural, paranormal. I'm not so sure. I mean, it's not normal, but to call it supernatural also seems very weird to me.
Natural? Is it natural?
When don't do the sound effects out of it. It's strange. I don't know. It's strange. I mean, it's really kind of inexplicable.
Paranormal, supernatural. I mean, you look for the right word for it, because it's not every day. It's not normal. It's not what all of us encounter on a regular basis, seeing something that's not actually there.
Right.
I mean, some of us do, but we get locked up.
Oh, believe it or not, it gets so arcane you can change the direction of an underground stream by doing certain things. Now, I don't have any evidence of that actually occurring. But when I started working on the book, it was good to go and really immerse myself in that. I love research. I love researching my books, and this was some of the most arcane research I ever committed myself to doing. But it was interesting, and and again about the genre, you mentioned these different genres. When I was working on the book, I wasn't really thinking in terms of mystery or literary, self-discovery, or paranormal. It just was a kind of very organic, natural kind of blend that was just worked its way through the book as the manuscript developed. And it's interesting, only after I finished it, I read P.D. James' little book on detection, about the rules of kind of, what's it called, Peter? It's out like last year. It's like a little book. So, what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to not do.
About detective fiction is the name.
Something about
Well done.
And she references a fellow named Knox from the late 20s.
Ronald Knox.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you. I have my line. Come on. Anybody in the world I know is Otto Penzler.
Father Ronald Knox.
Father Ronald Knox.
He did a major translation of the Bible. Knox.
Yes, he did. He also began the field of Sherlock Holmes studies by doing a critical analysis of the Sherlock Holmes stories in 1911, beginning the first of what is now all of that about Sherlock Holmes. Took it seriously and basically wrote about him as if he were a living character.
So reading about him in his P.D. James book, he set out some rules about detective fiction, and I realized reading down through the rules I've broken every single rule. You're not supposed to do this. Definitely don't have any kind of supernatural element in terms of the discovery. And I thought, God, I broke them all. I either really messed up or this is great. I had to decide it was great. So in terms of the genre question on the novel, it's been interesting to watch some people get confounded by it, or they do. Other people really, really get it. It was interesting to me, I wanted to say earlier, when Otto sent the manuscript out to about 8 or 10 writers, we've got lovely words that are on the book back from nearly all of them.
from Robert Owen Butler.
Robert Owen Butler is here. Flew up from Florida to be here today. Thank you, Bob.
Wouldn't miss it, my
I
friend.
love you, man.
I do too.
But when I got the letter, sorry guys, from Marty Kane, who was my dowsing teacher, she's like a big wig, she's one of the most prominent dowsers in America, saying, Brad, you got it. You captured it exactly what it's like to be an outsider, you know, and all this stuff. I thought, oh God. It's the dowsers that scare me. Not the literary side.